I just had one of those days.
Oh!
You know how you have those mornings where everything goes right?
Yeah,
And then the other ones.
We have lots of those, of the other ones.
Yeah, I had the other day. Do you have sugar?
No. Thank you.
You're welcome. She's only a tiny wee beast, but it does the duty so well.
So I describe my wife.
Wow.
How nice.
Wow.
Dad's cheeky, eh?
Morning, Billy.
Got sugar in it?
Oh no, he loves sugar.
You're trying to save money by not fucking giving anyone the sugar.
Yeah, correct.
And like you say, if you're lucky you haven't got any bloody competition.
You came over to say good day yesterday, and it was refreshing because when we mentioned what we were doing, there was no hesitant backing away with you, mate.
No, not in the slightest. You know, the whole thing about when you're looking at, I mean, it's a really difficult subject to talk about: child abuse, sexual abuse, domestic violence. They're all tough subjects. But I'm really open for the fact that the only way to deal with it is to get the community involved and to talk about it and bring it out in the open. Because if you don't make it a scary subject, then it's easier for people to take some responsibility. And this is the thing we've all got to do. I mean, I said yesterday to you guys, one of the things for me that I find, I can't walk past something. Because if I walk past it and take no action, then I'm actually saying it's okay. And even worse, if something really bad happens, I'm responsible in there as well. And we do need to take responsibility as a community. Do you remember the old, I don't know how old you guys are, the old family unit, you know? When I was young, I was at the tail end of the bit where the grandparents lived with you. They didn't live separately. Your parents stayed in your house until they died. And so you had those generational support in there. And part of our problem now is that it's hard for younger people and younger families, you know, and your kids are fantastic and we love them, and they're so stressful sometimes, you know. And you can see how both parents are working and they're struggling to make ends meet and they're tired and they're stressed, how they can lose the plot with kids. And what they need is help. They don't need to be denigrated for their behaviour. In the early stages, they definitely need to be denigrated if they're being really bad, you know. But in the early stages of abuse, it's not beating them up and it's not, you know, being really horrible. It's just being angry and being overly angry. And that comes from lack of support and help.
And I think that's the bit where, like, everyone, I think, can relate to that.
Oh, of course.
Everyone can relate to the getting real angry and, like, almost doing something.
Yeah.
Wow,
but also, too, nobody wants to admit to being bad.
No.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean, I know with my son, a couple of times I lost it with him.
Yeah.
You know, and I can remember one time when he was actually hurting me when we were driving, and I punched him in the arm. And I said to him afterwards, I'm really sorry because that was hard and it hurt and it made him cry, you know, and I felt awful. I still feel awful 20 years later, you know.
But we're so scared to talk about this stuff
in case we get labelled as an evil person or a nasty person.
but we all have those vulnerable moments, don't we?
And the problem is that we don't have, people are too frightened to join in and to talk with you and to say, hey, you know, are you okay? Because the easiest question to say to people is, are you okay? As opposed to, you evil, horrible person, you know, shun you from society.
And the other thing is, like, because there's a kid that's getting hurt in the middle of that. So you getting angry and saying what a dickhead someone is
doesn't help.
That doesn't help a kid.
Doesn't do anything for them. All that does is make the person defensive and angry. I had an experience here when I first moved in of a chap who didn't like fixing his fences, and he had stuff on the road a lot, and it had been going on for some years, many years. And what people would say to him is, they would say abusive things, you know, fix your fence, you're useless, da da da. And he would get his back up and go, what are you talking about? I know what I'm doing, I'm a farmer, right? And I raised the subject of his fences, and he said, well, I can't see anywhere they're getting out. And I said, well, let's have a look. And so we wandered along, and I'm going, look, there's great big holes here. And he says, oh, but I can't see where they're getting out. And then we had a little further discussion, and I was saying, well, I know you're a good farmer. You know, the problem I'm worried about is if a tourist comes up my driveway covered in blood asking to use the phone because their family are dying and wounded because they ran into a sheep and ran off the road. And the guy started fencing the next day.
Wow.
Because I didn't say he was a
Yeah.
bad man, I said he was a good man.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, I've had times in the past where I've become aware of domestic violence and I've had to ring authorities and inform them, even though the people didn't want to take any action themselves. For me, I had to. Because otherwise, if I didn't at least say something or put some things in place where help is available for people to try and get help, you know, if I didn't do everything I could, then I would be responsible if anything bad happened. I mean, I know people will say, oh, that's not true, it's not your fault, blah, blah, blah. You know, but if you know something is going on and you don't do anything, you're saying it's okay. And we can't do that in our society. And, you know,
I think one thing we've learnt on the road is it's so refreshing to meet honest people
yeah.
who speak openly and honest about stuff, and then that sort of it breeds that. Then you feel like you can be more honest about your own struggles or whatever.
Oh, this is the hard
Yeah.
bit. I mean, what you guys are doing is
Yeah.
awesome. Absolutely
No,
awesome.
we are amazing people. I keep telling.
Oh, well, that's fantastic.
Yeah,
What a randomly positive stop on the West Coast.
Excellent. You've got to be positive. There's no point being negative, you know.